If you own a remodeling firm, but your personal paycheck doesn't match the business you built, this video is going to completely change the way you view your business. Over the last few years, I've directly worked with remodeling companies trying to scale past 7 figures. And I've also spent hundreds of hours studying the most successful remodeling firms in this country. I realized almost nobody in the remodeling industry understands why most remodeling companies stay busy all year, yet never keep the profit they thought they would. Most remodelers think, oh, I just need to hire a new crew. I need better sales, or my overhead's too high. But that's not actually why there's no money left at the end of the year. The real problem started much earlier. It was the decision you made when you first started scaling your company, whether you realize it or not. How your company is positioned in your market. The difference between a remodeling firm that does fewer jobs but takes home real profit, and one that's slammed all year with projects but not a paycheck to show for it, comes down to one thing: the type of client each company attracts and how that client sees them compared to everyone else. In this video, I'm gonna walk you through the Premium Repositioning System, the step-by-step process used by some of the most successful remodeling firms in this country that attracts larger projects, commands higher prices, and dramatically increases how much they take home from the business. You'll learn how to become the company homeowners trust with their biggest projects, escape the cycle of price shopping and low profit work, and create a business where growth actually leads to more profit and not more stress. Now, before we get into the system itself, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Anthony, co-founder of Total Growth Solutions. Over the last several years, we've directly worked with remodeling companies across the country, helping them implement in-house marketing and sales departments that allow them to turn their busy, successful businesses into companies that generate real profit, freedom, and growth they originally started the business for. Now, to understand exactly why growth isn't translating into more money in your pocket, we first have to look at the numbers. So before we get into the repositioning system, let me show you the math. I'm going to use something I created called the Remodeling X-ray. I made this specifically for remodeling companies. You plug in numbers you already know: revenue, average job size, job count, margins, overhead, and it shows you exactly what is happening underneath the surface. Then we can change one number, and I want you to watch how it affects the owner's take home in real time. So instead of guessing what fixes the business, you can see it all on screen. Quick side note: if you want to punch your own numbers in after watching this video, I've made the complete Remodelers X-ray available for free. It's the same calculator I'm using in this video to visualize where profit is leaking in your business and what you can change to actually increase your take-home pay. You can download it in this video's description, or you could check out the pinned comment. Now, you're probably anywhere from $1 to $3 million per year in your business. You've got a real team, a project manager, a few crews, and someone keeping the books. You're booked out months in advance, and still, when you look at exactly what ends up in your account at the end of the year, it's nowhere near what a business your size should be paying its owner. So let's put that on screen. Say you're doing $3 million a year, but after everything is paid, you keep about 5% net profit, which is about the industry average. On $3 million a year, you take home $150,000. I want you to hold on to that 5% for a second, because that explains the entire problem. And I want to show you exactly what that means. At 5% net profit, every dollar that goes into your business only leaves you with about 5 cents. That other 95 cents is already gone. Payroll, materials, subs, everything. Let's try what exactly most contractors try first, which is more jobs. You can see the revenue increases, but now your schedule gets tighter and your team gets busier. You now have more fires to put out. But look at the take-home profit. It barely moves. And if you own a company like this is probably the part that feels painfully familiar. The business gets bigger, the schedule gets heavier, and the payroll gets larger. But somehow, your life does not get easier. And that's because your company is still making the same small amount on every single job. So the next move remodelers usually make is, let me start being more competitive on bids, which really means let me just start lowering the price. And this is where the math gets brutal. A 2 or 3% discount feels small to the homeowner, but when you only keep 5%, that little discount could wipe half your profit. You're still doing the work, you're still managing the client, you're still managing the risk, but your profit is gone. So then the obvious choice seems to be, let me just start charging more. But this is where most remodelers get stuck. You can't just decide to charge more when the market still sees you like every other remodeler. Because if the homeowner is comparing you between 3 other companies and you all look the same, why would they choose the more expensive one? So the leads slow down, your estimates stop closing, your crew gets nervous, and now you're stuck. More jobs make the business heavier. Discounting destroys the profit. Raising prices without changing perception kills demand. That's the trap most remodelers are living in. This is what I call the profit gap trap. The business keeps growing, but the owner's paycheck doesn't. So now watch what happens when we reset the numbers. Same company, same team, same crews. But instead of chasing more jobs, we increase the average project size. Now, I want you to see everything changes. Revenue goes up without adding a ton more jobs. The company is not necessarily doing any more projects. What's happening now is we're adding quality projects. Many of the costs of running the company are the same, whether you sell a larger project or a smaller one. So when project sizes increase, more profit makes it to you, the owner. That's why this lever is so powerful. You are attracting a different client with a much bigger budget, a much better vision, and much more trust in your company. That's the difference between being busy and actually being profitable. So the real question becomes, how do I become the company that homeowners trust with bigger budget, higher quality projects? And to answer that, the first thing we have to understand is the buyer. Because once we know who the right buyer is, every part of the system becomes easier to build. And if this way of looking at the business is already making sense, hit subscribe. I'm going to be breaking down more of these systems for remodelers who want to scale profitably and not just stay busy. Step 1, find the right buyer. This is the context for the entire system. If we get this wrong, every step after this gets weaker. The marketing gets weaker. The sales process gets weaker. The content gets weaker. Because the whole repositioning system depends on one question. Who is the ideal homeowner we want to become the obvious choice for? Most remodelers think they know who their ideal client is. They say, I want wealthier homeowners. I want bigger jobs. I want people with more money. But that's not specific enough to build a premium business around, because not every wealthy homeowner is a good client. Some wealthy homeowners are an absolute nightmare. They change their mind constantly. They don't know what they want. They shop every line item and they delay decisions. That can turn what should have been a profitable job into a 6-month headache. So before you reposition, you have to look backwards. Open your past projects, look at the last 2 or 3 years, and rank your clients by profitable lifetime value. Then once you find a few of these clients, you interview them. Not a survey, a real conversation. Ask things like, why did you remodel? What was frustrating about your old space? Why was now the right time for you to start? What made this project worth your investment? What were you afraid of what could go wrong? And why did you choose us? When talking to our clients, one thing pops up over and over again. The thing homeowners say initially is rarely the reason they bought. The first answer is logical. The second answer is emotional. This is where your positioning lives. In my experience, this is one of the biggest breakthroughs a remodeling firm can have, because most owners think they already know why people will buy from them. Then they start having these conversations and realize the real reasons were completely different from what they originally expected. What I've found is that the best positioning for your company is finding exactly what your ideal clients value the most. Now, here's why this matters. The answers become the foundation for everything else. This is your website, your content, your ads, your sales process, your follow-up, your referrals. This is where most remodelers fail when it comes to repositioning. They start with the logo, the website, the marketing, before they even understand the buyer. When we help a remodeling company reposition, we start here, because the research tells us exactly what the market already cares about. The best remodelers write marketing based on what the homeowner has already told them they care about. Every headline on your website, every ad you run, and every piece of content you make on Instagram. This all should be based off the language your best clients are already using. And when you start to listen closely, you realize homeowners are rarely buying what remodelers think they're buying. That is the language that matters, because a premium homeowner doesn't buy remodeling. They buy the life a remodeled home gives them. So step one is simple. Understand your best clients. You're not inventing a new market. You're uncovering why your best clients bought, what they valued, and what makes them willing to invest. That becomes the map for the rest of the repositioning. And once you have that, the rest of the steps are obvious. Now that we know who the best client is, the next question becomes, how do we make the company instantly relevant to more people like them? And this is where the beachhead comes in. Now that you understand the buyer, the next mistake is trying to speak to everyone. And this is where a lot of remodelers lose the premium client before the conversation even starts. They try to become known for better projects while still marketing themselves like they do everything for everyone. And when you communicate like a generalist, the market's gonna treat you like a generalist. Now look at this. Kitchen and bathroom remodeling, masonry, basement finishing and remodeling, commercial framing. But from the homeowner's perspective, what are they known for? Nothing specific. They look like a generalist. And when you look like a generalist, you get compared like a generalist. Remodelers that are perceived as a generalist are forced to compete on price. If I had to choose one thing that allows the best firms to be able to attract the largest projects compared to their competitors, it would be clarity. The best remodelers are incredibly clear on who they serve. Now, compare the first company we looked at to this one. They're not saying we do everything. They're saying we create luxury home transformations for design-conscious homeowners in this specific market. This is a completely different frame. Now the homeowner can see themselves in it. And that's what I call the beachhead. Your beachhead is the specific part of your market you want to be known for first. A strong beachhead has three parts: the project you want to be known for, the market you want to own, and the type of homeowner you want to attract. The sharper those three things become, the easier it is for the right homeowner to say, that's exactly who I was looking for. The three major components of a beachhead are the project type, geography, and the psychographic. Project type might be luxury kitchens, first floor transformations, historic homes, or large additions. The geography might be the three wealthiest towns where your best projects already come from, or the neighborhoods where the right homeowners actually live. And the psychographic is the deeper desire why the homeowner wants to look for a remodel and what they want the project to change about their life. Are they empty nesters who want a home where their kids and grandkids can gather? Are they a design-conscious homeowner who cares deeply about their finished space and how it feels? Are they families who love the neighborhood but need the home to finally match the way they live? That's the psychographic. It's the deeper reason the homeowner is willing to invest into this project. So instead of building your marketing around a generic message that could apply to any homeowner, like we do remodeling, you need to start communicating who you serve and the outcome you could help them achieve. For example, we help design-conscious homeowners in these three towns transform outdated kitchens and first floors into homes built for hosting, family, and everyday gathering. Now you might be thinking, if I narrow my focus, won't I lose work? And that's a fair question, because most remodelers believe the path to more revenue is appealing to more people. But the exact opposite is usually true. The companies that command the highest prices and attract the best projects are rarely trying to be everything to everyone. They're known for something specific, a specific problem they solve better than anyone else. And that matters because the homeowners pay premiums for specialists, not generalists. Which brings us to the final step. Once you've identified the homeowners you want more of, the question now becomes, why should the ideal homeowner want your version of the project rather than somebody else's? Before we talk about what your unique selling proposition should be, let's talk about what it actually is. A unique selling proposition, or USP for short, is simply the reason your ideal client chooses you instead of another remodeling company. It's the answer to the question, why should I hire you instead of someone else? The biggest mistake remodelers make is building the answer around themselves. We have quality craftsmanship. we communicate, or we've been in business for 20 years. The problem is every remodeler says these things. A real USP isn't built around what you want to say. It's built around what your ideal client wants to hear. This takes us back to step one. The interviews told us what the buyer wants. The unique selling proposition turns that into a reason to choose you. Because if our ideal client is a busy professional who wants the entire project handled for them, our USP has to solve that problem. Or if our ideal client is terrified of making an expensive design mistake, now our USP has to solve that problem. And there's a framework from Alex Hormozy that explains why this works so well. Value goes up when the homeowner wants the outcome more, believes you can actually deliver it, and feels like the process will require them less stress, time, and effort for them. In other words, people pay more when they believe they're more likely to get the outcome they want with less risk, less stress, and less effort. That's exactly what we're building here. What's interesting is when you study premium remodeling firms, even if they've never heard of Hormozy's framework, they're accidentally following it. They're increasing confidence, reducing uncertainty, reducing effort, increasing desire, and that's why they can command higher prices. Now, if we're going to increase perceived value, we have to do it in two different ways. This is where the 2 USP framework comes in. The first is the product USP. The product USP answers what makes the finished product different from everyone else's. Not what makes the communication or the process different, but what makes the actual finished result unique. High-paying homeowners hire you because they believe your vision of their finished home is better than everyone else's. And this is where a lot of remodelers get stuck. They think product unique selling point is we do quality work or we pay attention to detail. The problem is every remodeler says that. A real product USP is tied to a signature feature, philosophy, design approach, or characteristics that consistently show up in your projects. Notice what we're talking about. We're talking about the finished product. That's something that becomes associated with your brand and something that competitors have a hard time replicating. This is where the homeowner should feel the difference. Not just they build kitchens, but they build the kind of kitchen I actually want my family living in. That is a completely different level of desire. It increases the dream outcome in Hormozy's value equation. Now, once the homeowner wants the outcome, a new question appears. Can I trust these people to actually deliver it? That's where the experience unique selling point comes in. The experience USP answers, why should I trust this company? Because even when the homeowner wants the transformation, they still have fears. They're worried the entire project will become a stressful, expensive nightmare. The experience USP exists to eliminate these fears. Notice the difference. The product USP sells the destination. The experience USP sells the journey. And if we go back to Hormozy's value equation, the experience USP increases the homeowner's perceived likelihood of success while reducing the effort, uncertainty, and sacrifice associated with the project. That's why premium firms can charge more. They're not simply selling construction, they're increasing the perceived value. By the way, if you want more breakdowns just like this on how premium remodelers can create pricing power, subscribe. This is the kind of strategy we're going to keep unpacking. This is why before we ever build a client's in-house marketing and sales systems, we build the foundation of premium positioning first. Now, let's bring everything together. We started by identifying the right buyer, then we built a beachhead around that buyer, then we developed clear USPs that differentiate your company. Now, at this point, you're probably wondering which part of this is actually a constraint in my business. Is it the positioning? Is it my sales process? Is it my marketing? This is the question that truly matters. That's exactly why we created the custom roadmap call. We'll look at your positioning, your marketing, your sales process, and identify the biggest constraint preventing the business from moving to the next level. There's a link in the description, or check the pinned comment if you want us to take a look. Now that those pieces are finally together, we can go back and look at those numbers we saw at the beginning of the video. First, we identify the right client. The client who values expertise instead of shopping for the lowest bid. The client who is willing to invest in larger projects. Now the average project gets bigger. Same sales process, same sales team, same company, bigger opportunities. Then we established a clear positioning in the market. We stopped looking like every other remodeler. We stopped competing as a commodity. Now, more of the right homeowners choose us, not because we're cheaper, because we're a better fit. And this is where the money starts showing up. Same company, same owner, but instead of doing $3 million at 5% net profit, now we're doing $4 million at 15% net profit. $600,000 in take-home profit, 4 times the owner's original take-home. So if you're running a remodeling company, booked out with projects, with crews in the field, and with a real team behind you, you're the exact type of company we designed our process for. If that sounds like where you're at, you can go ahead and book a custom roadmap call in the description below, or check out the pinned comment.